Well guys, it's no secret that right now the market sucks. It is pretty tricky for you that are looking for a brand new JL, even factory ordering one. The prices have really gone up, and I feel you. And we got to thinking, the JK market is such a hot market still to this point. So Ryan and I got to thinking upstairs, we put on our thinking caps and we thought, you know what? I think this year we're gonna build a JK. So in today's video, I kind of wanted to talk about why it is the perfect time to buy one in the year 2024, what to look for when kind of perusing the interwebs for a JK. Kind of stay till the end, and we'll talk about what our plan is when we buy one, because we've kind of made a decision. We're gonna buy a JK this year. So the first site that I go on is not Auto Trader. It's not here on the laptop. It's Facebook Marketplace. As you guys know, there are a lot of good deals to be had on Facebook Marketplace, and they are cheaper than going to buy it at a dealership lot. That is just kind of a natural fact. If you're going to a dealership, they have to mark it up a little bit. They've got to make profit. Now, there's pros and cons of both. So a pro of going to a dealership is that you can stop in during normal business hours. They'll show you the whole vehicle. They'll probably have some salesman come out and give you a pitch on it, but you can take a look at it, and it's not really, there's not a ton of pressure, or you have to schedule a time to meet someone, or it's a scam. That's kind of the biggest thing. You go to a dealership, they probably got the title for it, they've got everything ready to go for, and if you're looking to finance it, the dealership will be able to do that a little bit easier for you as well. So there are a lot of pros of doing it that way. Cons, it's more expensive. You're paying for all of those services and luxuries. Now, going on to what I use most often, Facebook Marketplace, there are pros and cons to that as well. Now they've expanded the search radius to 400 miles of your zip code, and you can also just change your zip code and go to different areas. The prices are cheaper on Marketplace, and it seems like a lot more people are using that compared to the traditional method of Craigslist. I don't think even many people use Craigslist anymore. However, there are some cons too. So pros, a lot more options, a lot more posts on there, and the prices seem to be better. Cons, there's a little bit more, so you're kind of getting what you pay for there. If you're paying a cheaper price, there are some risks inherently with it. You've got to meet up with someone, so you don't know the likes or the character of that person, but you've got to find a time to meet up with them. The deals typically go through pretty quickly, so if someone else is looking at that vehicle, they kind of get sold out from under you. Titles, you got to make sure the titles are clean and clear. You got to make sure that the vehicle isn't a salvaged, if it's not a complete rotted out POS, if you guys know what I mean. There's a lot more that you have to look for, and then also there's scams out there too. So there could be scams where it's like, yeah, send me the $500, I'll ship it to you, blah blah blah. Don't fall for it. If the deal looks too good to be true, it probably is. If you see a Jeep that's completely built up and it's like 10 grand, it's probably not the real vehicle, or they just took screenshots off the internet. One thing I did want to mention, kind of a sidebar, Craigslist might be a good market right now because a lot of the older generation uses Craigslist. Now, what's beneficial with someone that's a little bit more old school, their vehicles tend to be a lot nicer, they tend to be a lot lower mileage, and they're more honest with what's wrong and what it needs. I can remember a good friend of mine actually picked up a Jeep Comanche on Craigslist, and he paid $2,500 for it, and it had like 40,000 miles on it, was garage kept, one owner, and the guy said, look, I'm not selling this to you until I get it inspected on Monday. I mean, you're not gonna find that kind of person out there on Marketplace, not too often anymore. The one thing I wanted to talk about too, for years of JK that I'm looking at personally, I tend to avoid the 07 to 11 generation. You can find them a lot cheaper. However, the 3.8 liter engine that was used in those are just not too advantageous for what we're looking to do, and they tended to have a lot more problems, plus they made a lot less power. But starting in 2012, they added the 3.6 liter Pentastar V6, as well as they upgraded the interior a little bit too, and not a little bit, they redid the entire dash, the entire colors, the seats, everything. We're gonna go through from 2012 to 2018 and pick something that fits our price point, as well as checks a lot of boxes for us. When it comes to the boxes that we're gonna be checking off in our vehicle, we're looking for a almost completely stock vehicle. So we don't want anything that has a lift kit, has wheels and tires, has the bumpers chopped off, crazy interior mods. We want as stock as it can be, because typically it shows that the person that drove it wasn't a crazy Jeep person and didn't chop it all up. So we're already looking at something that we have a blank slate, and we know that they didn't modify it, so it gives us the chance to modify it the right way instead of buying something that has had 4 or 5 different lift kits, has death wobble and all that crazy thing. In a true world, as stock and as low mileage as we can get it as well. But the other thing that we're going to really be looking at, and in our case it's not as important, is the trim. I know a lot of you guys kind of focus on the Rubicon, focus on the Sahara based on creature comforts. In our world and the way that we're going to do it, the trim is not as crazy for us. We all had JKs with crank windows, and it didn't really feel out of place in that Jeep, and we don't really need the Rubicon when we're looking at it. The Rubicon in the JK came with a different transfer case, upgraded axles, just the upgraded gears in there as well, plus you got the Rubicon badge and the sway bar disconnect and probably a couple other little things, but it didn't come with the crazy fenders. windows. It didn't come with the hood. It didn't come with the steel bumpers unless you ordered certain years with the Hard Rock or the X edition. It didn't come with as much. So for us, we're not crazy on that because we're going to be swapping most of it out and upgrading it. All right, guys, so as we pull up Auto Trader here, there are a couple things that I kind of start with on here. We already have a defined budget in our head for Ryan and I on how much we want to spend on our Wrangler, but we do need to decide if we want to do two-door and four-door. I think we're both kind of leaning towards two-door a little bit more, just because I think the two-door is a little bit more nostalgic, and for the way that we're going to be building it, we don't really need all the seats for it too. I know a lot of these JKs, the prices have actually gone down pretty significantly compared to a brand new JL, and I'm going to say our budget is, what do you think, Ryan, between 15 and 20K, somewhere in there, to try and find what we really want. Now, if it's a little bit above that or a little bit below it, if we can work with it, we will. That's kind of our budget on that as far as just finding the base Jeep. So finding something that we think is reasonably priced. The other thing, I set my Auto Trader to nationwide because I don't care. Anything's just a plane flight away if it's the right deal. But for some of these, I would say maybe keep it within a few hundred miles just so it's a drive away. That way, if you show up and it's a complete crapshoot underneath the Jeep, you didn't waste $600 worth of plane airfare to get there and look at it and it's junk. So I'm kind of rolling through here and I'm setting the mileage for under 75,000 miles. I know that seems harder to find. So under 75,000 miles for a vehicle that's obviously a 2012, that's 12 years old, that's way under what the average yearly is driven. But I want something that has less mileage because it shows obviously it was driven less, but a lot of those maintenance components are still going to be okay. While we're going to replace a lot of things, you don't want to get nickel and dimed over little parts that go bad in the engine and the transmission and the electronics, this, that, and the other. Also, we are in Pennsylvania, so we're up in the Rust Belt. If you're going to start looking, look down south if you can, because the frames are typically a little bit cleaner. Like here's one, this is 18,990. It's at an auto center someplace. And for us, I'm not crazy on the fender flares or what wheels and tires it has. It's all gonna get ripped off, so it doesn't really matter for me. But what I do like to look at is seeing a stock Jeep like this. So this, obviously the fenders look nice. Everything looks good on the interior, and it's just as stock as it can be. I really want a Jeep that some old lady drove to church back and forth, because that gives us the best base platform if you're gonna use this as a project. If this is gonna be your daily driver, or if you want something that's already built up, start searching for that. But in our case, we want something that's as stock as possible because we're going to be replacing it all anyways. So this Jeep has 62,000 miles. It's got power windows, power locks. No, it doesn't. Crank windows, crank locks. It's automatic, 62,000 miles, and it is a 2015. They want 18,900 for it. Has a hardtop, and it has the bone stock mail delivery Jeep wheels on it. But all that's going to be removed. But in my case, and in our case here, this is a good looking stock Jeep. I mean, this does not have any modifications to it that I can see. It gives us a complete base platform, and it's something that, you know, I can trust it up once I go look at it and test drive it, is in good shape. And that's what I'm looking for. I want a good base platform, a good engine, a good frame, a good set of axles. At say 18, even to say 20 grand, we could put $15,000 into this thing, and we're at the same price as a base two-door like yours started off with. Now, it doesn't have the same warranty. It doesn't have the same kind of, well, I wouldn't say it doesn't have the same tech, because we can add a lot into these JKs. There is so much to do to these aftermarket now. I mean, when we started with the JKs, there was a lot of companies coming out with parts, but now it is just through the roof, guys. I will tell you, you can pretty much add on anything your mind can think of. The JK, I would say, was probably more customizable than the JL. I think there's a lot more fender flare options, a lot more that you could do to it. You could do a lot more with the doors. There's a ton of aftermarket options for half doors, tube doors, and that's kind of why we're excited about it, just because there is a lot that we can do. Now, I think we are going to try and pick a unique color or something that's a little bit kind of flashy, maybe an Inca gold, or you could do the extreme purple, they called it back then. It was the purple rain, but a little bit brighter. But there's a lot of cool colors for the JK as well that you can really customize and make it your own. Obviously, check out the engine, check out the undercarriage, see how it was driven. A good way to tell how a JK was driven is if you look at the door pockets, those nets on the side, if they're like completely blown out, like you've seen like 20 water bottles sitting in there at once, there's scratches all over it, you can tell that it was driven by someone a little bit younger, or someone that just threw stuff everywhere in the vehicle. That's something that I avoid. When I see ones that have like brand new nets in them, I know that that person was like, I don't want to put my water bottle in there because it's going to stretch it out. Also, like Ryan's Jeep, yours was a beach vehicle. When you got your JK, it had the surface rust. There was sand in different parts of it. I forget what we pulled off the one time. The steering stabilizer, when we pulled that off and like turned it, sand poured out of it. So that's something that you're going to want to check when you look it over. You'll notice if it's a beach vehicle. Now, I'm looking at Jeeps here that are in between the $18,000 to $20,000 mark. And I would dare to say that on Facebook Marketplace, these are relatively $3,000 to $4,000 cheaper for the same year, same mileage, same kind of condition, because it's not at a dealership. So there is the pros and cons, and that's kind of what I'm seeing price-wise. But there's a lot of good options out there, a lot of cool colors that I honestly forgot about. I saw the Dune, I saw Hyper Green, Gecko, which is Ryan's favorite color. There's a lot of cool colors out there, and that's kind of what gets me excited too, is we can pick a really cool color. But I mean, we've got a lot of research to do, and I think this is the first step of any JK purchase, is to go online, see what's out there, check on the Carfax too, because that does give you a good perspective of what was going on with the vehicle. On today's viewer rig of the video, we're checking out John's 2015 JK two-door Rubicon 6-speed. Now, John's Jeep is really clean, it's really simple, and it's honestly something that I would look at when I build a JK. But what's nice about this is that you can see it is in the Sarge green clear coat, but Ryan and I absolutely love the graphic that's on the side. It's kind of retro, kind of old school, but just cleans it up and gives it more of a kind of a clean, I don't know, Ryan, what do you say? Just a nice retro, a nice look to it. Let's just leave it at that. He's got a set of nice lock off-road wheels wrapped in Mickey Thompson Baja Boss ATs, which is what Ryan just went with on his vehicle. And then he did do the Alpine stereo system with a 2.5-inch Terraflex lift. He said he just bought this JK in May of this year and have been adding mods to make it even better on the trails. A really clean looking Jeep, and I do love that orange and green kind of mix match color there. So John, thank you so much for submitting. If you guys want to have a chance at your rig being featured, be sure to hit us up through Instagram or send us an email. The best deal is to find that grandma or grandpa driven JK, and that's probably what we're going to be searching for. And maybe we'll use our audience a little bit too. You guys have been a great help when it comes to finding certain vehicles, when it comes to locating things and sending us info. If you are that demographic that has one of these Jeeps that's got low mileage, is baby to bone stock or close to bone stock, send us an email. We'll drop the email. It's info@dirtroadcredmedia.com, and no matter where you are in the country, we're willing to come out because our viewers tend to have the best rigs too. Who knows, that would be neat, Ryan. We could buy it from one of our viewers and then build it up. So they could maybe, hey, I'm ready to get rid of this. I'm retired. I don't want it anymore. All right, well, let's give it a good life, build it up with the right parts, and you can see what the Jeep would look like. But we want to document this entire thing. So we want to show what we pay for the vehicle, what we put into it. Obviously, we're going to work with our partners here on the channel, but we're also going to try out a lot of new parts too. I would like to see what we could do with the JK, try out some Amazon mods, some cool interior mods, and really show you guys that have a JK what you can do with it without going crazy with it. I don't want a rock buggy tube bouncer. Ryan, you don't want that either. We want something we can enjoy as like a beach cruiser, take to shows, take wheeling when we want, not feel bad about it, you know, make it a very capable Jeep, maybe strip the carpet out and bed line the floors. That's always something I have done before, but I want to do like a professional job. I want to do like the Line X, like really strip it out. Ryan and I thought a lot about this. The TJ, do we do a TJ? Do we do a YJ? Do we do a CJ? What's most relevant with our channel? What's the most parts out? And ultimately, it kept coming down to JK. But we'll kind of have to see. We're going to see what we come up with here. But the next time you'll see a JK on camera, it'll be our JK. So it'll be the Dirt Road Cred JK. But yeah, until next time, my name's Matt, and this is Ryan with Dirt Road Cred, and we want you to get out there and earn yours.